I'll create a 4-chapter story based on your concept, Endless Mystery: Who is the Uncaught Serial Killer, set in 1977 New York City. The narrative will follow Detective Jack Donovan and reporter Sophia Rossi as they hunt for the Midnight Whisper killer. Each chapter will be approximately 1,100 words, written in English with realistic elements that capture the atmosphere of 1970s NYC during its financial crisis. Chapter 1. The July heat hung over New York City like a smothering blanket, amplifying the stench of uncollected garbage that lined the streets of Hell's Kitchen. Detective Jack Donovan wiped sweat from his brow as he ducked under the yellow police tape, nodding to the uniformed officer who recognized him immediately. 23 years on the force had earned him that silent respect, even if the brass upstairs had long written him off as damaged goods. "Same signature?" Jack asked, his voice a gravelly remnant of too many cigarettes and not enough sleep. Medical examiner Lena Wilson glanced up from the body, her expression grim. Down to the last detail. Female victim, early 30s, strangled. And yes, the calling card is there. Jack's eyes fell to the small white business card placed meticulously on the victim's chest. Printed in elegant script were the words, "The darkest hour comes just before dawn." It was the 4th victim in 6 weeks, all with the same card, same quote. The press had dubbed him the Midnight Whisper, a name that made Jack cringe, but had caught on like wildfire in a city already on edge. "Time of death?" Jack asked, crouching beside the body, noting how she'd been positioned, hands folded across her chest, almost peaceful if not for the bruising around her neck. "Between midnight and 2 a.m., same window as the others." Lena stood, peeling off her latex gloves. "Jack, you know what the commissioner's saying. They're forming a task force. Let them. I'll find this bastard before their committee finishes its first coffee break." Jack studied the victim's face. Like the others, she seemed unremarkable. Not wealthy, not particularly beautiful, just ordinary. The killer wasn't choosing victims for obvious reasons, which made the pattern harder to establish. Outside the apartment, the flash of cameras greeted Jack as he emerged into the stifling afternoon. The vultures had descended quickly this time. Among them, he spotted a young woman with determination in her eyes, pushing past her mostly male colleagues. "Detective Donovan, Sophia Rossi, New York Chronicle. Is it true this is the Midnight Whisper's 4th victim? Are you any closer to identifying a suspect?" Jack had learned long ago to ignore reporters, but something about her persistence made him pause. "No comment," he said automatically, but found himself adding, "And that name, it's what he wants. Headlines, fame, don't give it to him." Sophia's notebook remained poised. "Then give me something else to write. People are terrified. The blackout last week has everyone on edge, and now this. Then write about the budget cuts that left us with half the detectives we need," Jack snapped. "Or about how this neighborhood used to have beat cops who knew every resident by name before the city went broke." Before she could respond, Captain Reynolds appeared at Jack's side. "Donovan, a word." His tone left no room for argument. Inside Reynolds' car, the air conditioning was a momentary reprieve from the heat. "The commissioner's breathing down my neck, Jack. 4 bodies, no leads. They're saying you're too close to this, that you're seeing parallels to the Blackwell case that aren't there." The mention of that name sent a familiar chill down Jack's spine. 7 years ago, Martin Blackwell had slipped through his fingers, and Jack's partner had paid the price. Tom Reese had been more than a partner. He'd been the closest thing to family Jack had left after his divorce. Now Tom was in a wheelchair, a bullet lodged near his spine, and Blackwell was serving time for unrelated charges that would see him free in 3 years. "This isn't Blackwell," Jack said firmly. "Different methodology, different victimology. But whoever this is, he's organized, patient. He leaves no evidence, no fingerprints, no fibers. It's like he's invisible. Well, you've got 3 days to make some progress before the task force takes over," Reynolds warned. "And stay away from that reporter. Last thing we need is the Chronicle running another story about NYPD incompetence." After Reynolds left, Jack sat in his battered Dodge for a long time, staring at his case notes. The victims, a waitress, a nurse, a secretary, and now a librarian. Different neighborhoods, different backgrounds, but all killed in the same way, all discovered with that same haunting message. What was he missing? As twilight fell over the city, Jack drove to Tom's apartment in Queens. He found his former partner on the small balcony, watching the city lights flicker on as another heat-wave-induced brownout threatened. "You look like hell," Tom observed, wheeling himself back into the apartment. "Fourth victim today," Jack said, accepting the beer Tom offered. "Reynolds is giving me 3 days before they form a committee to run the investigation into the ground." Tom studied him. "You're not sleeping, seeing ghosts again." "This one's different, Tom. He's playing a game. Those cards, the quote, he wants attention. Or he's sending a message to someone specific," Tom suggested. "Maybe the victims are just vessels." Jack considered this. "What about the quote, 'The darkest hour comes just before dawn'? It's familiar, but I can't place it." "Thomas Fuller, 17th century. It's just a proverb, Jack." Tom wheeled to his bookshelf, pulled out a worn volume. "But if he's using it, maybe he sees himself as some kind of harbinger of dawn, after creating the darkness himself." As Jack drove back to Manhattan, Tom's interpretation lingered. The killer as a self-appointed cleanser, bringing some twisted version of dawn after darkness. But darkness for whom? What connected these women? He parked near the Chronicle building on a hunch and waited. Just after 10 p.m., Sophia Rossi emerged, looking exhausted. Jack stepped out of his car. "Ms. Rossi, got a minute?" She startled, then composed herself. "Come to give me that exclusive after all, detective? Come to ask what you know about Thomas Fuller and 17th century proverbs," Jack replied. Sophia's expression shifted from surprise to intrigue. "Buy me a coffee and I'll tell you. But then you owe me something for tomorrow's paper. People deserve to know they're being hunted." As they walked to an all-night diner, the city around them pulsed with nervous energy. Somewhere in the concrete labyrinth, Jack knew the midnight whisper was watching, waiting, perhaps already selecting his next victim. 3 days to find him before bureaucracy took over. 3 days to prevent another white card from being placed on another innocent chest. What Jack couldn't know was how this case would unravel the carefully constructed walls he'd built around himself since Tom's shooting, or how the ambitious young reporter walking beside him would become both his greatest ally and his most dangerous vulnerability in the hunt for a killer who seemed to exist like a ghost in the city that never sleeps. Chapter 2. The fluorescent lights of the all-night diner buzzed overhead, casting a sickly glow across the laminated menu Sophia absently flipped through. Jack sat across from her, his reflection fractured in the window behind her, city lights blurring against the glass like smeared watercolors. "So," Sophia began, setting aside the menu, "you think the killer is some literature buff with a penchant for Old English proverbs?" Jack's face remained impassive. "I think nothing about this guy is accidental. The card, the quote, the victims, there's a pattern I'm not seeing yet." Sophia studied him, her reporter's instinct sensing there was more. "And you came to me because you've been covering this from the beginning. Your article after the second victim, you mentioned details that weren't in the press release." A slight smile crossed Sophia's face. "I have good sources." Or you know something you're not sharing," Jack countered, leaning forward. "Look, I'm not here to bust your sources. I'm trying to stop this guy before he kills again." The waitress arrived with their coffee, and Sophia waited until she was out of earshot before speaking. "The first victim, Ellen Madden, I knew her. Not well, but we belong to the same book club. That's why I've been pushing so hard on this story." Jack's attention sharpened. "Book club? What kind of books?" "Classics mostly. Dickens, Austen, some modern stuff too." Sophia hesitated. "The thing is, after Ellen died, I checked with the other victims' families. Lisa Chen, the nurse, she volunteered reading to kids at the hospital. Margaret Wilson was taking night classes in English literature. And today's victim, Anna Klein, was a librarian," Jack finished, the first threads of connection forming. "They all had literary connections." Sophia nodded. "But it's more specific than that. All 4 women were involved in adult literacy programs. Ellen and Margaret taught reading skills to adults. Lisa read to patients but also helped with the hospital's staff education program, and Anna coordinated the library's literacy volunteers. Jack's mind raced with the implications. They were teachers, bringers of light, of knowledge. "The darkest hour comes just before dawn," Sophia quoted softly. What if he's not seeing himself as the dawn? What if he's the darkness before it, and these women represent the dawn he's extinguishing? Jack pulled out his notepad, scribbling rapidly. "We need to check other literacy programs in the city, find out who might have had contact with all 4 victims." "There's a city-wide literacy coalition," Sophia offered. "They coordinate most of the programs. I can get their records." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Legally? I have friends on their board," she said with a shrug, "but I'll need something in return. An exclusive when you catch him." "If," Jack corrected grimly. "And I'll need to verify this connection myself. Meet me tomorrow at the precinct. Bring whatever you find." He stood, tossing bills on the table. "You don't trust me?" Sophia challenged. Jack paused. "I don't trust anyone. Keeps me alive." The next morning, Jack arrived at the precinct to find Sophia already waiting, a thick folder under her arm. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, suggesting she'd been up all night. "Coalition records," she explained, following him to his desk. "And I cross-referenced them with the victims' schedules." Jack flipped through the papers, impressed despite himself. "You did all this overnight." "Unlike the NYPD, the Chronicle doesn't run on bankers' hours," she replied. "There, all 4 victims attended a fundraising event for the coalition 6 months ago at the Waldorf. It's the only time all 4 were definitely in the same place." Jack studied the event program. Over 300 attendees. That's still a lot of suspects. "But look at the event staff," Sophia pointed to a list. "Catering, security, volunteers, much smaller pool, and they would have had access to the guest list." As they combed through the staff list, Captain Reynolds appeared. "Donovan, my office now." He shot a suspicious look at Sophia. "Without your press attaché." Inside Reynolds' office, the captain tossed a file across his desk. "Preliminary profile from the FBI. They think we're looking for a white male 30 to 45, educated but underemployed, possibly with a history of rejection by female authority figures." "That describes half the men in New York," Jack muttered. "They also think he's escalating. The time between kills is shortening. We might have less than a week before he strikes again." Reynolds studied Jack. "What's your angle with the reporter?" Jack hesitated, then decided to share the literacy connection. Reynolds listened skeptically. "It's thin, Jack. These women had other things in common too. All single, all lived alone. Common victimology for predators seeking easy targets," Jack argued. "But the literacy angle explains the quote, the literary reference. I need to follow this." Reynolds sighed. 2 days, Jack. That's all I can give you before the task force takes over." Outside, Jack found Sophia deep in conversation with a uniformed officer who seemed all too willing to share information. She smiled when she saw Jack, excusing herself. "I think I found something," she said excitedly. "The security company that worked the fundraiser. Golden Shield. They went bankrupt 3 months ago, but their former employees included one Martin Blake, who has priors for stalking and assault." Jack felt a surge of adrenaline. "How'd you get that?" Sophia's smile turned mysterious. "Professional secret. Want to check him out?" As they drove to Blake's last known address in the Bronx, Jack found himself studying Sophia's profile. Her determination reminded him of himself, before cynicism had dulled his edges. "Why this story?" he asked. "Career advancement?" Sophia stared out the window. "My mother was illiterate until she was 40. Came from Italy, worked cleaning houses, was too ashamed to admit she couldn't read. One of these literacy programs changed her life." She turned to face him. "These women were doing something important, something that mattered. Their story deserves to be told right." Jack nodded, a new respect forming. "And what's my story, in your professional opinion?" "Burned-out cop with a vendetta," she said bluntly. "The Blackwell case, your partner getting shot. You blame yourself." Jack's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "You've done your homework. It's my job to know who I'm dealing with." Her voice softened. "For what it's worth, the file suggests you did everything by the book. Sometimes the bad guys win." "Not this time," Jack said firmly as they pulled up to a dilapidated apartment building. "Not this guy." Blake's apartment was empty. He'd moved out weeks ago, according to the super. As they returned to the car, a call came through on Jack's radio. Another body had been found. This time, it was different. The victim was male, a night school teacher, same strangulation, same card, but a message written on the wall in what appeared to be blood: "Stop looking." As Jack surveyed the scene, he realized two things with chilling clarity. First, the killer knew they were onto him, and second, the person watching them from across the street, pretending to be just another onlooker, matched Martin Blake's description perfectly. Jack casually nudged Sophia. "Don't look now, but I think our suspect is watching us." Brown jacket, baseball cap, across the street. Sophia resisted the urge to turn. "What do we do?" "Act normal. I'll circle around," Jack murmured. Then loudly to the officers, "I'm getting coffee. Back in 10. As Jack disappeared around the corner, Sophia felt suddenly exposed. She fumbled for her notepad, pretending to take notes, all while keeping Blake in her peripheral vision. When she glanced up again, he was gone. Panic surged through her until she spotted him walking briskly away. Without thinking, she followed, staying just far enough behind to avoid detection. She didn't see the unmarked car pulling up beside her until it was too late. "Get in," Jack ordered, throwing open the passenger door. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" "He's getting away," Sophia protested. "He's leading us somewhere," Jack corrected. "And we're going to let him think he's succeeded." As they followed Blake through the maze of New York streets, the hunter and hunted exchanged roles in a deadly game that was far from over. What neither Jack nor Sophia realized was that the true identity of the Midnight Whisper remained hidden, watching the pieces of his elaborate game fall precisely into place. Chapter 3. The August sun beat down mercilessly as Jack and Sophia trailed Martin Blake through the crowded streets of the Lower East Side. Sweat trickled down Jack's back, his service weapon a reassuring weight against his ribs. Blake moved with purpose, occasionally glancing over his shoulder but never directly behind him where Jack's unmarked car crawled through traffic. "He's heading toward the docks," Jack observed, maintaining a careful distance. Sophia kept her eyes fixed on Blake's retreating figure. "Do you think he's our guy? He fits the profile, has the background, and he's running," Jack replied, navigating around a double-parked delivery truck. "But something feels off. If he knew we were onto him, why show up at the crime scene? Why not disappear?" "Maybe he enjoys the risk," Sophia suggested. "Or he's taunting you." Jack's expression darkened. "There's that possibility." They watched as Blake entered an abandoned warehouse near the waterfront, a remnant of New York's industrial past, now left to decay as the city's financial crisis deepened. "I'm calling for backup," Jack decided, reaching for his radio. Sophia touched his arm. "Wait, what if he's meeting someone? If we storm in there, we might scare off the real killer." Jack hesitated. She had a point. "Stay in the car," he finally ordered, checking his weapon. "If I'm not back in 15 minutes, call this in." He scribbled a number on her notepad, direct line to Captain Reynolds. Before she could protest, Jack was out of the car, moving with the practiced stealth of a veteran detective. Sophia watched him disappear into the warehouse, her heart hammering against her ribs. 10 minutes crawled by, then 15. With shaking fingers, she reached for the car radio. Inside the warehouse, dust motes danced in shafts of sunlight that penetrated the broken windows. Jack moved silently between massive support columns, his senses heightened. The space appeared empty, but the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. Someone was watching. "Blake!" he called out, gun raised. "NYPD! Show yourself!" A scuffling sound came from his left. Jack pivoted, finger tensing on the trigger. Martin Blake stumbled into view, hands raised, terror etched across his face. "Don't shoot, please!" Blake's voice quavered. "He said you'd come, said you'd kill me if I didn't deliver the message." Jack kept his weapon trained on Blake. Who said? What message? I don't know his name, Blake stammered. He contacted me after Golden Shield went under. Paid me to watch those women, report their schedules. I didn't know he was going to kill them, I swear. You're an accessory to murder, Jack growled, advancing. 5 counts now. Blake's eyes widened. 5? There were only 4 women. A teacher was found this morning, male victim this time. No, that wasn't him, Blake insisted, panic rising in his voice. He only targets the women. Someone else must have... A sharp crack echoed through the warehouse. Blake's expression froze, a small, dark hole appearing in the center of his forehead. He crumpled to the ground as Jack dove for cover, scanning the rafters for the shooter. Silence descended, broken only by the distant wail of sirens. Sophia must have called it in. Jack waited, controlling his breathing, listening for any movement. Minutes passed before he risked moving to Blake's body. The man was dead. A clean shot from a high-powered rifle. Professional. Tucked into Blake's jacket was a white business card, identical to those found on the victims, but this one had a different message. Dawn breaks for those who seek it. Outside, police cars surrounded the warehouse. Sophia rushed to Jack as he emerged, relief washing over her face. Thank God, when I heard the shot, Blake's dead. Jack cut her off. He wasn't our killer. He was working for him, tracking the victims. Back at the precinct, Jack faced a furious Captain Reynolds. You took a civilian into a potential hostage situation. The commissioner is breathing fire, and the chief of detectives wants your badge. Blake was our only link, Jack argued. Now he's dead, and our killer is covering his tracks. The male victim this morning, Michael Doyle, Reynolds continued, preliminary ME report suggests he was killed 72 hours ago, preserved somewhere, then placed in his apartment early this morning. This guy is playing with us, Jack. Jack paced the small office. Doyle doesn't fit the pattern. He wasn't at the literacy fundraiser. But he was connected to our investigation, Sophia interjected from the doorway, ignoring Reynolds' glare. Doyle volunteered at the Coalition's main office. He processed the attendance records for the fundraiser. He would have had access to all the information we're looking for. Jack turned to her. How did you... I called my contact at the Coalition while you were being debriefed, she explained. Doyle managed their database. If our killer is targeting people involved in literacy programs, Doyle would have been able to identify him if he'd been at that fundraiser. Reynolds sank into his chair. So the killer is eliminating witnesses, people who might connect him to the victims. But why kill Blake? Because Blake could identify him, Jack realized. The killer used Blake to track the women, then eliminated him when he became a liability. This changes everything, Reynolds said grimly. We're not dealing with some disorganized psychopath. This is calculated, methodical, and patient, Jack added. He's been planning this for at least 6 months since that fundraiser. As they strategized next steps, Officer Ramirez knocked on the door. Detective Donovan, there's someone here asking for you. Says it's about the Midnight Whisper case. In the interview room sat an elderly woman, her hands clutching a worn leather handbag. I'm Elaine Doyle, Michael's mother, she introduced herself, voice steady despite her obvious grief. My son called me 3 days ago. He was frightened. Said he'd discovered something about a patron at the Coalition, someone who'd been volunteering but had accessed restricted files. Jack leaned forward. Did he give you a name? Mrs. Doyle shook her head. No, but he said it was someone respected, powerful, someone above suspicion. She reached into her handbag, withdrawing a small notebook. Michael kept meticulous records of everyone who used the Coalition's resources. He brought this home the night he called me. The notebook contained dates, names, and programs accessed. Jack flipped through it, Sophia looking over his shoulder. Most entries were mundane, but one page had been dog-eared. A list of volunteers who had requested information about the fundraiser attendees. 5 names, Sophia whispered. And look at the last one. Jack stared at the familiar name, disbelief washing over him. That's impossible. Sophia's voice hardened. Is it? He has the access, the resources, the intelligence, and he'd be above suspicion. Who? Mrs. Doyle asked. Jack closed the notebook. Judge Robert Chambers, head of the citywide literacy coalition and former prosecutor who sent half the criminals in this city to jail. Reynolds was skeptical when they presented their theory. A sitting judge? Do you know what kind of evidence we'd need to even get a warrant? Doyle's notebook is a start, Jack insisted. And Chambers fits. He's intelligent, methodical, has resources. He would know how to cover his tracks. But motive? Why would a respected judge suddenly start killing women involved in literacy programs? Reynolds challenged. Sophia, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. I've been researching Chambers' background. 20 years ago, his wife taught adult literacy classes. She was murdered, strangled in their home while he was at a conference. The killer was never caught. Jack and Reynolds stared at her. That wasn't in any of the background checks, Reynolds said. It wouldn't be, Sophia explained. It happened in Boston before he moved to New York. Different name. He changed it after her death. He was Robert Chamberlain then. The anniversary, Jack realized. His wife's murder. When was it? Sophia checked her notes. August 15th, 1957. That's the day after tomorrow, Jack said quietly. If he's recreating her death, honoring her memory in some twisted way, he'll kill again on the anniversary, Reynolds finished. As they built their case against Chambers, Jack couldn't shake a nagging doubt. It seemed too neat, too perfect. But when surveillance confirmed that Chambers had no alibi for any of the murders, and forensic accounting discovered payments to Golden Shield Security under a shell company traced back to the judge, even Reynolds was convinced. The trap was set. They would monitor Chambers' movements, waiting for him to make his move on the anniversary. What they didn't anticipate was that the judge would come to them first. That evening, as Jack returned to his apartment, he found his door slightly ajar. Gun drawn, he entered cautiously. Sitting in his armchair, calm and composed, was Judge Robert Chambers. Detective Donovan, Chambers greeted him, as if they were meeting in his chambers rather than Jack's violated home. I believe we need to talk about these unfortunate misunderstandings. Jack kept his weapon trained on the judge. Stand up slowly, hands where I can see them. Chambers complied with judicial dignity. You think I'm your killer. I assure you I'm not. But I know who is, and tomorrow night he'll kill again unless we stop him. Why should I believe you? Jack demanded. Because, Chambers said calmly, the next victim will be Sophia Rossi, and only I can help you save her. As the city sweltered under the August heat, the true identity of the Midnight Whisper remained hidden behind layers of deception. Jack's instincts screamed that he was missing something crucial, something that had been in front of him all along. With less than 24 hours until the anniversary that seemed to be driving the killer's timeline, the clock was ticking toward a revelation that would shake Jack's world to its foundations. Chapter 4. The air in Jack's apartment felt electric, charged with suspicion, and barely contained violence. Judge Chambers remained unnervingly calm as Jack kept his service weapon trained on him. You have 30 seconds to explain why I shouldn't arrest you right now, Jack growled. Chambers gestured toward Jack's kitchen table, where a thick manila folder lay. Everything you need is in there, the real killer's identity, evidence I've been gathering for months, and why Ms. Rossi is next on his list. Jack backed toward the table, never taking his eyes or gun off Chambers. With his free hand, he flipped open the folder. Inside were surveillance photos, financial records, and police reports, all centered around one man. This is impossible, Jack muttered, recognition dawning as he stared at the familiar face in the photos. Captain James Reynolds, Chambers confirmed. Your superior, your mentor, and the man who's been orchestrating these murders from the beginning. Jack's mind raced. Reynolds has been pushing this investigation forward, not hindering it. Has he? Or has he been steering you away from himself, setting deadlines that force rushed conclusions, ensuring you focus on convenient suspects? Chambers leaned forward. Think, detective. Who suggested Blake might be involved? Who limited your time on the case? Who always knew exactly where the bodies were found before the calls came in? The pieces began to align in Jack's mind. Reynolds' insistence on the task force takeover, His convenient appearances at crime scenes, his push toward certain suspects, but it still didn't make sense. Motive? Jack demanded. Why would Reynolds do this? Chambers' expression darkened. 20 years ago in Boston, my wife was teaching adult literacy. One of her students was a young man named James Reynolds, newly arrived from Ireland, ambitious but held back by his limited reading skills. He became obsessed with her. When she rejected his advances, he strangled her in our home. Jack lowered his gun slightly. There was no conviction. There wasn't enough evidence. Reynolds was clever even then. I moved to New York, changed my name, rebuilt my life, became a judge, partly to ensure justice for others when there was none for my Catherine. Chambers' voice cracked slightly. 3 months ago, I recognized him at a coalition fundraiser. He'd changed too, risen through police ranks, built a reputation, but I knew him immediately. If you suspected him, why not come forward sooner? With what proof? The word of a grieving widower against a decorated police captain. I needed evidence. Dick Chambers gestured to the folder. I've been building a case, tracking his movements, but he discovered I was onto him. These murders, they're a message to me. He's recreating Catherine's death, taunting me with his freedom, killing women who remind him of her. Jack's phone rang, breaking the tension. Sophia's name flashed on the screen. Jack? I think someone's following me. Her voice was hushed, frightened. I'm at the Chronicle, working late. There's a patrol car outside, but Reynolds sent it. Jack cut in, cold certainty settling in his gut. Sophia, listen carefully. Stay where you are, away from windows. I'm coming to get you. After hanging up, Jack turned to Chambers. I'm taking you into custody until I can verify all this. Chambers nodded. I expected nothing less. But hurry, detective. The anniversary is tomorrow, but Reynolds won't wait if he thinks his cover is blown. Jack cuffed Chambers to a pipe in his bathroom, called for a squad car to pick him up, then raced to the Chronicle building. The night editor let him in, pointing toward Sophia's desk in the corner. She was gathering her notes, fear evident in her quick, nervous movements. Jack, thank God, she breathed when she saw him. Reynolds called. He said you'd discovered new evidence and wanted me to meet you both at the station. Jack's blood ran cold. I never called Reynolds. He's trying to get you alone. Understanding dawned in Sophia's eyes. It's him, but how? I'll explain in the car. We need to get somewhere safe. Jack ushered her toward the exit, scanning the newsroom for threats. As they reached Jack's car, a familiar sedan pulled up alongside them. Reynolds rolled down his window, his expression concerned. Donovan, I've been trying to reach you. We've got a location on Chambers. He's planning to run. Jack positioned himself between Sophia and Reynolds, hand near his weapon. Funny, because Chambers is currently handcuffed in my bathroom, waiting for patrol to pick him up. Something shifted in Reynolds' eyes, a coldness that had always been there, but Jack had never truly seen until now. You're making a mistake, Jack. Chambers is playing you. He's the killer. Then explain why you tried to lure Sophia out on false pretenses, Jack challenged. Or why your patrol car outside the Chronicle mysteriously disappeared. Reynolds' hand moved toward his coat. Jack drew his weapon faster. Don't! Get out of the car, hands where I can see them. For a moment it seemed Reynolds might comply. Then he gunned the engine, the sedan lurching forward toward Sophia. Jack fired, shattering the windshield. The car swerved, crashing into a parked van. By the time Jack reached the driver's door, Reynolds was gone. Blood on the seat, indicating Jack's shot had found its mark. He's wounded, Jack told the responding officers after they'd secured the scene. Set up roadblocks, check hospitals. He can't have gone far. But as dawn broke over the city, there was still no sign of Reynolds. The evidence in Chambers' folder proved damning. Financial records showing Reynolds had funded Blake through a series of shell companies, surveillance photos of Reynolds near each crime scene, and most damning, a storage unit rented under a false name containing items taken from each victim. Chambers was released with an apology from the commissioner himself. The press conference that afternoon revealed the shocking truth to the public. A decorated police captain, exposed as a serial killer, now the subject of the largest manhunt in New York history. Sophia's exclusive ran on the front page, detailing the twisted path that had led to Reynolds' unmasking. As promised, she gave Jack credit for solving the case, painting him as the determined detective who saw through his mentor's deception. 1 week later, Jack sat across from Sophia at the same diner where their investigation had truly begun. The heat wave had broken, a gentle rain washing the city streets clean. "They found his car abandoned upstate," Jack informed her. "Border Patrol's been alerted. It's just a matter of time." Sophia nodded, stirring her coffee absently. "Chambers offered me an interview. His first since all this happened. You taking it?" "I don't know. There's something about him that still bothers me." She looked up at Jack. "Don't you think it's convenient, all that evidence compiled so neatly?" Jack had wondered the same thing. Reynolds was careful but arrogant. He made mistakes. Or someone wanted us to believe he did. Sophia leaned forward. "What if neither of them is the Midnight Whisper? What if there's someone else, someone we haven't considered?" Before Jack could respond, his pager buzzed. The message was brief. "Midnight, Central Park Boathouse, come alone." Sophia read his expression. "What is it?" "Probably nothing," Jack lied, slipping the pager back into his pocket. "Listen, I've got to go. Paperwork waiting. Rain check on dinner?" As Jack walked away, Sophia watched him, her reporter's instinct telling her there was more to the story than Jack was sharing. In her purse, her own pager displayed the same message. That night, as a full moon illuminated Central Park, Jack approached the boathouse cautiously, weapon drawn. The structure was dark, seemingly deserted. Inside, moonlight filtered through windows, casting long shadows across empty tables. "I knew you'd come," a voice called from the darkness. "Both of you." Jack spun around as Sophia stepped through the doorway behind him. "You got the message too," he realized. Sophia nodded, eyes wide with apprehension. From the shadows emerged a figure Jack had believed dead for 7 years. Martin Blackwell, the man whose escape had cost Tom Reese his ability to walk, stood before them, a sardonic smile on his face. "Hello, Jack. Miss Rossi. I believe I owe you both an explanation." "Blackwell," Jack breathed, gun aimed at the man's chest. "You're supposed to be in prison." "Officially, I still am. Amazing what connections and money can arrange." Blackwell gestured to chairs at a nearby table. "Please, sit. If I wanted you dead, you'd never have made it through the door." Against his better judgment, Jack lowered his weapon slightly. "You're the Midnight Whisper," Blackwell chuckled. "A rather melodramatic name, don't you think? But effective for creating the necessary panic." "Why?" Sophia demanded. "Those women had done nothing to you. They were means to an end, Ms. Rossi, sacrifices in a greater game." Blackwell sat, utterly at ease. 7 years ago, Detective Donovan here sent me to prison for a crime I didn't commit." "You shot my partner," Jack snarled. "I shot a corrupt cop who was blackmailing me," Blackwell corrected. "Reese was dirty, Jack. He'd been on my payroll for years, feeding me information, helping me stay ahead of investigations. When he got greedy, he became a liability." Jack's world tilted. "You're lying." "Am I?" "Ask yourself why Reese insisted on going in without backup that night. Why the recording of your radio calls mysteriously disappeared from evidence." Blackwell's smile was cold. Reynolds knew. "He covered it up to protect the department. So the murders, this was all about revenge? Against Reynolds and me?" Jack's finger tensed on the trigger. "Partly, but mostly it was about justice." Blackwell nodded toward Sophia. "Your ambitious reporter has been quite helpful, following the breadcrumbs I left, pushing the investigation forward when it stalled." Sophia paled. "I never—" "Not knowingly, of course. But those sources who conveniently had information, the book club connection, all orchestrated to lead you both exactly where I wanted." Jack's mind raced. Chambers. Was he part of your plan too? A useful pawn. His wife's murder was real enough, but Reynolds had nothing to do with it. I simply needed someone with credibility to deliver the evidence I'd manufactured. Blackwell checked his watch. Reynolds will be found dead tomorrow. Apparent suicide. Guilt over his crimes. Case closed. "Why tell us this?" Sophia asked, her reporter's instinct still functioning despite her fear. "Why not just let us believe Reynolds was the killer?" Blackwell stood. "Because, Miss Rossi, every good story needs an ending, and Detective Donovan deserves to know the truth, that his whole career has been built on lies, that his trusted partner and mentor both betrayed him, that despite his best efforts, the real villain walks free." "I'll stop you," Jack promised, raising his gun again. "I'll tell everyone what you've done. With what proof? Reynolds's guilt has been established. Chambers is a respected judge whose testimony is beyond reproach. And Blackwell spread his hands. "I'm officially still in prison, remember? A ghost who can't possibly be responsible." Jack steadied his aim. "I could end this right now." "You could try," Blackwell agreed. "But then you'd never learn what really happened 7 years ago. The full truth about Reese, about Reynolds, about your wife." Jack froze. "What about Sarah? Another time, perhaps." Blackwell backed toward a rear exit. "Consider this a courtesy call, Detective. A professional respect between adversaries. Our game isn't over. It's merely evolved." Before Jack could respond, the lights went out. By the time emergency lighting activated, Blackwell was gone, leaving Jack and Sophia with uncomfortable questions and a case that, despite official closure, felt more open than ever. 3 days later, Reynolds' body was found in his car, parked at the edge of the Hudson River, a single gunshot wound to the head and a typed confession on the passenger seat. The Midnight Whisper case was officially closed. The city breathed a collective sigh of relief, and life in New York began to return to normal. But for Jack Donovan, sitting beside Tom Reese's wheelchair on a quiet Sunday afternoon, watching his former partner's face for any sign of the corruption Blackwell had alleged, the mystery had only deepened. And for Sophia Rossi, whose career had skyrocketed with her exclusive coverage, the nagging feeling that they had been manipulated into a false conclusion wouldn't fade. Somewhere in the city, Martin Blackwell watched and waited, the true Midnight Whisper biding his time until the next chapter of his elaborate game of vengeance could begin. As summer faded into autumn, the business cards and their cryptic message took on new meaning. The darkest hour comes just before dawn, but for Jack Donovan, dawn seemed further away than ever.